City Council. In 2017, she led the charge to make Eau Claire carbon neutral by 2050, and she has since worked with 9 other municipalities across Western Wisconsin to help local governments lead the movement for an equitable transition to clean energy. So welcome, Kate. We're glad to have you here.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
Good to see you all. All right, I do have some slides. Do you want me to just jump right in? All right. Sounds good. Here we go. Let's see. I think it's this one. It says that I am not given access. Oh no.
Okay, hang on. Who set up the link?
I did, and
Okay.
I don't know why. Usually I always have that so anybody can open up. I don't know why that's the case.
Yeah, sometimes it happens. So if you just go down to share screen.
Okay.
Yep. And then I think you have an option to share that screen.
So I do have the option. It's saying when I select it, it says allow Zoom to share your screen, open system preferences. This has never been an issue. I'm sorry.
You know, and it hasn't been for me. I always look to Steve Hansen when these things happen. You know, Steve is something mysterious here.
I think that's on your end, Kate.
I think so too. Do you all mind waiting a moment?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I've heard too, you can sometimes make someone.
I think that worked. Yes, it looks like it did.
Okay.
All right.
There we go.
All right. Can you see my screen? Yeah. All right. Okay, so like Cheryl said, I wanted to talk to you all about local governments leading the clean energy movement in Wisconsin. There is an opportunity in Dunn County to take the lead on clean energy, similar to what Menominee did earlier this year. And so, but I wanted to start just by talking about generally local governments and why they're doing this. Currently in the United States, 1 in 3 Americans are represented by governments that have made commitments to achieve 100% clean energy by 2050 or sooner. So that would include, cities like Menominee, cities like Eau Claire and Eau Claire County. And it would also include, people in entire states that have made this commitment. So actually in the state of Wisconsin, Governor Tony Evers has made this commitment as well. And so it's really become not an uncommon thing. And when you think about, 1 in 3 Americans, that's quite a lot. And I think that the real inspiring thing is that governments of all levels are really committing to do their part and recognizing that it's going to take all of us in order to achieve that. Here in Wisconsin, we've had a lot of communities, a lot of municipalities make this commitment. Here in Western Wisconsin, we have the city of Eau Claire, the city of Menominee, the city of La Crosse, Eau Claire County and La Crosse County, and the Eau Claire Area School District. This is not an exhaustive list, and there are lots of communities that have made this commitment as well. And there are lots of communities that are sort of in the process of making this commitment too. So just recognize this is not an exhaustive list. And there are lots of reasons why local communities are doing this. Obviously, not burning fossil fuels results in cleaner air and water, and it's good for our health. Climate change and the effects of climate change are costing our communities. Primarily in Wisconsin, we see flooding really impacting our communities and costing small communities and rural communities a lot of money to replace infrastructure, public and private, that has been damaged by flooding. So it's a matter of, we can't afford not to address these issues. But to make things the deal even sweeter, clean energy is actually a really good investment for communities, especially communities like many in Wisconsin that are facing budget shortfalls. The average cost of energy in North America has actually, the clean energy has actually dipped below dirty energy that happened around 2015. And so to invest in solar and wind in our local communities is going to be a great financial investment for the future over investing in, you know, gas or coal powered plants. Clean energy, the clean energy job sector has also been growing in massively in the last decade or so, and actually is growing at a greater rate than the general job market, and certainly far exceeding the rate of growth in the dirty energy sector. So the number of jobs in clean energy actually exceeds the number of jobs in oil and gas and coal. And obviously you can see in the graph on the bottom there that those jobs in oil, gas, and coal are actually decreasing while jobs in the clean energy sector are increasing. And lastly, especially, I think this one is especially important for rural communities like in Dunn County. Clean energy can bring new revenue options to farmers that are really struggling financially right now. I've read statistics that show that farmers can make 3 to 4 times more per acre when they're, you know, creating energy with wind and solar than they would with crop farming. And often they can do both and really like double dip and raise revenue that way. So that's for a lot of those reasons, Eau Claire made the choice to commit to 100% clean energy. Our journey with sustainability really started back in 2017, but we've made steady and incremental changes to eventually come to the place where we're completing and passing our Renewable Energy Action Plan earlier this year. We've also, I think, a couple of really key points and key moments was also the creation of the Advisory Committee on Sustainability back in 2014 that has really led the charge to make our city more sustainable since then, and is taking on the responsibility of ensuring that this Renewable Energy Action Plan is coming to fruition. So the Renewable Energy Action Plan comes in 4 parts. It was funded with a grant of 180,000 grant from the Public Service Commission. Our process was facilitated by Xcel Energy, which, as you all may know, Xcel Energy is one of the leading energy utilities in the country in terms of clean energy and have set their own carbon neutral electricity goal. And so we are really lucky to have Xcel Energy as a partner to help build a plan that's feasible and fits in with what they have planned as well. There were 46 community members that met over 7 months, all representing lots of different diverse sectors of our community that all have a stake in our clean energy future. We use 3 guiding principles. The first, and in my belief, the most important was our equity and inclusiveness principle. The idea that we should never be driving forward with these plans for clean energy in a way that's actually going to hurt people. There are ways to do it where we're addressing climate change, but we're actually furthering the divide between people with resources and people who are under-resourced. So we want to make sure that we're making equitable transitions to clean energy. We want to make sure that our energy transition is smart economically, that it actually grows our economy and our budgets, and of course that we're being stewards to our ecosystem. The outcome was a 10-year plan. So it'll take us to 2030. And the idea is that the plan will be updated after that. And I think that's a really important piece because, when we think about achieving 100% clean energy, I think that there's technology that doesn't even exist yet in order to allow us to reach that goal. And so to have a 10-year plan that is updated gives us the flexibility to update the plan with those new technologies that will surely be created in the next 10 years. The plan is 351 pages in total and has 3 parts. And the policy categories, it's sort of broken up into different policy categories that are important and key to the plan. This is sort of a projection of how much, based on the policies that were recommended, how much energy we can cut in the next 10 years. And then on the top there, you'll see sort of our benchmarks for the whole 30-year process up until 2050. You can see that we're planning to really to ramp up a lot more significantly as the years go on, and hopefully as we get better at what we're doing and as the technology empowers us to be more aggressive. So I like to pick out a couple of policy samples because I think that's a big question. So these are all found within the Renewable Energy Action Plan, but if you're curious, the plan is available on the city website, and so you can see what what other policy recommendations have been made. But so based on those 5 categories in the biodiversity category, a policy recommendation is to require naturalized spaces in each new development, 5% for residential and 10% for non-residential. In the residential policy category, to pass a home energy rating ordinance to give homeowners and renters an idea of how energy efficient their home is and where improvements can be made. In the transportation category, to pass an ordinance requiring EV parking in maybe city lots or even private lots. In the waste category, working with haulers to create composting programs, which in Eau Claire, we have one hauler who does offer composting services, but I think we have like 8 haulers in Eau Claire. And so working with the rest of the haulers to make that an option for their customers. And then finally, in the commercial, industrial, and institutional category, increasing education and use of the city's net zero building guide, which is one of the 3 documents that were created out of this plan. So like I said, here in Dunn County, we do have an opportunity to do something similar. I should say and back up that the city of Eau Claire passed our goal to set 100% clean energy by 2050 back in 2018. And actually the Eau Claire County followed suit and passed a similar commitment in 2019. And so Eau Claire County, La Crosse County, and Dane County have all passed these commitments. And so this is not the first time that a Wisconsin county is considering this. And actually Brown County is very close to setting a goal as well. So we are sort of here in the Chippewa Valley, we're sort of a clean energy hub, I would say. And so we're looking to Dunn County to follow suit of those communities in Eau Claire County, as well as Menominee that are also passed a resolution in 2020. So I've been working with Don Keeter, who sits on the county board and is on the facilities committee. We are working to hopefully pass a resolution to set a goal of 100% clean energy by 2050. So far, the facilities committee has heard a presentation from me and had a discussion about this idea, and it went very well. There were a lot of questions and I think a lot of learning that was happening. But generally, I think the committee saw that it was a good financial investment and a good and moral thing to do for our future generations. So I think that discussion went well. They're at this meeting in this month on February 24th, they're having a follow-up discussion to really nail down exactly what they want to do. I am recommending that they pass a resolution to set that vision, to sort of give the consent of the county board for the city staff and other county board members to really start to chip away at those steps, like creating a plan or creating a committee. And so our recommendation is to pass the resolution, but of course the facilities committee is still sort of deciding what their next step is. We're hoping that at the March meeting, they will have something written to vote on and to hopefully vote in favor of. And then whatever that is, hopefully a resolution, that resolution would go on to the administrative committee and then on to the full county board for a vote. And so, you know, if this is successful and the county does indeed make a commitment to clean energy, our recommendations as a next step would be to create an official county committee dedicated to sustainability, just like this is the city of Eau Claire has sort of a committee of potentially both county board members and community members to continually be thinking about what is the next step, and really keeping the county accountable to the plan that they would hopefully create as well. So my asks for you as the HEAT committee is to individually contact the facilities committee before February 24th. You can call them or you can attend their virtual meeting. It's over Zoom, so it's pretty easy to attend just from the safety of your own home. But basically we want to sort of gently show that the committee that there is community support for this idea, ideally for a resolution, and to let the committee know that, you know, the community has an eye on this and really is expecting and hoping that they'll pass a strong resolution. My second ask is for HEAT to consider writing a letter of support to the county board. I know that HEAT is sort of a branch of the county, and I think that given that HEAT is you know, the primary group that is focused on sustainability for the county, I think it would be great for HEAT to weigh in and to show support for this initiative to the full county board. I think that it would probably would be most effective going to the full county board rather than you know, a couple of committee members. So that's sort of my ask for you to consider. I will stop there a little early and open it up for questions if you have them.
Great. Questions, people?
Yeah, I have some questions. That was kind of like drinking out of a fire hose. A lot of information there. You made I have several questions, but I'll take them one at a time. You made a comment about renewable energy better for farmers financially. And I was wondering if you could just elaborate on that a little bit more, Kate, and explain what you mean and give some examples, because that is an important element here.
Yes.
In Dunn County is our farming community, and we want to get those people on board. So if you could tell us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just support that a little bit.
Sure. So the idea behind this is, I guess to start, we all know that crop yield is providing less and less revenue for farmers, that farmers are going out of business at an unprecedented rate. And so I think that that's really like the key point here in why we should be looking at clean energy as an alternative revenue source for our farmers. I think the idea is to look at developing either solar or wind on farmland. And the idea is that you could have an acre of land and have a bunch of solar panels and also, crop that land as well. Maybe do it half and half. I think ideally, a farmer could put up a windmill, and that land underneath the windmill could be farmed almost exactly like it had in the past. And so in that instance, you could be creating clean energy and yielding a crop for both for two different revenue sources on that 1 acre of land. And so that's sort of the idea behind why it's a good financial situation for farmers. The fact that clean energy it provides more revenue generally per acre for farmers as the revenue for cropland is decreasing. And so I think that's really the key there. I do know as well that the Farmers Union has taken up clean energy and climate change as one of their primary issues. I think they have 4 or 5 issues that they take on every year, and it's one of them. And I've also started working with the Dunn County Farmers Union as well here in Dunn County. So I recognize, I have a strong belief that farmers have the most to lose in climate change, as their farmland is flooded, and droughts are occurring at a higher rate as well. And they also have the most to gain with clean energy development. And so I think, especially in a county like Dunn County, it's really critical that we are pulling in farmers and allowing them to really lead this process. Like I said, in Eau Claire County, we had a committee in the city of Eau Claire, we had a committee of stakeholders. Since we're a city, that list of stakeholders did not include farmers, but for a county like Dunn County, if there was a stakeholder-led process to create a plan or even carry out a plan, I strongly believe that committee needs to be well represented with farmers. So
A couple questions.
Yeah.
Lindsay with Landmark Conservancy. We are doing some resiliency work. We work in 20 counties. I think, and we've met, so it's and very passionate about resiliency and climate. A couple questions though, and I'm a little worried. One, around our ability over the next 35 years to truly impact weather systems. I question that, just between you and me. So when I'm up in Bayfield trying to convince them to do land protection and protect forestry, I'm also saying, I can't guarantee you're not going to have floods either, because I don't think it's clear in the climate models how much energy work we're going to do will slow down or shift weather systems. Do you run into those issues? Because I do feel like that is a tricky messaging point, because on some level it sounds great because we're going to solve all these big expenses, all this flooding, but I have not seen a model yet that says that will actually happen. That we can put the genie back in the bottle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that science can't guarantee any of that.
Right.
I think science has proven that, the increased flooding and droughts is a result of human-caused climate change.
Oh, yeah.
And certainly, and I think that there's agreement that, like, if we do nothing, that's only going to get worse. And so the best we can do is do something and hope for the best. And I do know too that the International Panel on Climate Change has put out reports that if we don't pursue 100% clean energy by 2050, that's really a benchmark for irreversible damage, that there's still time now to reverse something. And I think what that is, we don't know. But we do have sort of a benchmark where, like, if we do nothing, then we're not going back. We're not putting the genie back in the bottle. But I think that I think that there's a consensus in the science community that it's not too late to, like, at least reverse some of the damage that we've done.
And I agree with you there. And the other real quick question, or I have two others, so I don't mean to take up too much time, but when we do talk about under-resourced communities, and this has been a huge issue that we're all trying to wrap our arms around, we tend to forget that a lot of these small white rural towns are equally depressed financially, with women averaging $22,000, $23,000 a year annually trying to raise a family. And I'm a little worried because the body politics, now there are Trump signs everywhere. I live in Dunn County, out in the rural area. There are Trump signs everywhere. We're still in a huge political, is occurring in rural areas, not in Menominee. Menominee is the progressive part, but if you get out there, it's still, the angst is still very real. So anyway, I just feel like sometimes we'll go and use the word, oh, we need to be more diversified. And I'm a queer woman. I've lived through AIDS epidemic. I know what it's like to be a minority, but we have to be super careful right now that we don't create a dynamic where their needs aren't seen as underserved, if that makes sense. And I'm struggling politically to have these conversations, because a lot of times it's the urban people and it's all about Black Lives Matter, and I'm all there, but we have a huge amount of white people getting screwed in rural America. That said, I'm done my little preaching and I really apologize, but I do think we have to be very careful when we use those words. And then around biodiversity, we actually, wait, yeah, you want to jump in, Kate? Yeah.
I think this is a really, really important piece. And I think that you're right, that underserved and under-resourced, it means different things in different communities.
Yeah.
And I think the lowest hanging fruit that we can make in terms of these goals and making sure that we're not leaving anybody behind is actually with housing, and making sure that our housing is brought up to a level where sufficient energy efficiency standards, both so that people aren't burning energy and using energy and contributing to climate change, but also because so that they're not spending $500 a month to heat their home, right? I live in a house in Eau Claire's 3rd Ward. It's 100 years old, and I had an energy audit and found that there is literally almost no insulation in the entire house.
Right.
The R value was 5 in the attic, which it's supposed to be 50. There's no insulation in the walls and no insulation in my crawl spaces and in the basement. And so this is a pretty nice house, and I can only imagine what kind of energy efficiency horrors are existing in some of the lower standard housing. And that in Eau Claire, those housing stocks are serving people of low income, often disproportionately people of color in Eau Claire. But that population might look differently in rural white Wisconsin. And so I think my point about not leaving people behind is really like meeting the needs of the community, whatever that means, whether it means racial needs or income needs or whatever, what have you.
But a lot of people are hearing those words and just going to color. It's just happening right now. I mean, people didn't even want to watch the Super Bowl because of racial issues being discussed politically. I mean, so I just want to be super careful.
Yeah.
It is heated. And then last but not least, I question the biodiversity strategy that you're using in Eau Claire. We know random acts of conservation are not going to retain biodiversity. We've done an enormous amount of analysis. We've identified where we need to do land protection to ensure in 30 to 50 years, we actually have some kind of biodiversity. We're under huge crisis. So yours is a little bit more like a random act of, oh, we have a housing development, so we want to protect a little bit. The truth is that's not going to work long-term. So I'd love to chat longer, because if we do some sort of conservation strategy and done, I want to make sure Landmark's engaged and we're protecting biodiversity for 50 years. And I shut up. I apologize. I got a little ranty. These guys are used to me. Sorry.
Yeah, I think remember in the Eau Claire plan, and not saying that it's perfect, but remember it's addressing the city of Eau Claire, where there's just less opportunity to protect like large swaths of land. And so I think that's why local action on climate change and clean energy is so powerful, because a local community like Dunn County can recognize like we have a lot more opportunity to conserve land and biodiversity in the county. And so, if we're creating our plan, we want to make sure that conservancies are represented and experts in land conservancy are at the table and giving those recommendations, so that it's as powerful as it can be and intentional as it can be. So,
and for example, we're in the process of purchasing property from Excel that were used when they were originally going to be a nuclear power plant built. And it is held up in joint finance right now. It's probably, 600 acres. It's beautiful land to be protected. And if we could find ways for people to find political muscle to push the people up above, and Kathleen Brenner, I think, is a senator from around up above you. She's on joint finance now and will be a power broker. I think we're going to try to get together with her. But Kate, I think that's, this more than anyone, we build that swell of interest on the grass that help move people like her in a positive direction. But anyway, and you do a great job. I'm so impressed.
And I
Yes.
think there's a message here that it's important for us to get out to all of our conservation groups. And, Kate, what I'd like to see, if possible, I've tried to take copious notes of when you're talking, is to get those notes out to all of our conservation groups. there are so many things happening right now in Dunn County. For instance, the land division ordinance is being considered, and they are talking, the members of the PRD are talking about what will be the most conservation and ag protected a way of dividing the land. So we need to get your points out to all of the groups that we communicate with. I'd like to get a couple of questions, and I think Steve Hoggs has had some questions too. Several things. Kate, when you talked about the plan that you put together, or not you, but the group put together in, well, you certainly, but the group put together in Eau Claire, there's a lot of technical information in there. How do we get that kind of powerful information to so that the Dunn County can make those kinds of decisions? That's one question. And secondly, how do we deal with the pushback that wind energy is getting from farmers and neighbors? So 2 questions, and then I'll shut up.
Yeah, so I think, so like I said in the presentation, our plan cost $180,000 to create. That was funded though by the Public Service Commission, and those grants are still available. And actually Wisconsin Conservation Voters is really, that's one of our highest priorities, is to create new resources for cities to both plan and support planning staff who are tasked with carrying out these plans. So there are some resources and we're hoping for more. I think that as we continue to see communities taking these steps and being the first to invest in these plans, my hope is that there can be, communities like Dunn County that maybe have a smaller planning staff, a smaller budget, that can see plans created from other counties and just sort of maybe still have to invest some into creating a plan, but use a lot less money because those plans are already created. There's no reason to recreate the wheel. You can just sort of like tailor your plan based on the other plans that are created and tailor it to the needs of your community. So, so that's I would say that's my hope. But I think that, we should all be clear that, it's going to take some work and it's going to take some money and creativity to create plans and actually make the investments that need to be made. But I think my argument is that it's well worth it. The wind issue is certainly, I think, probably one of our biggest hurdles in our transition to clean energy. There's a lot of concern about wind, but I think that we have also seen models in other states that bring people together in a really authentic conversation to really learn about what it is, what the real concerns are, and debunk the untrue concerns of wind, and really get the community bought in together around that idea. I think that in Wisconsin, we've seen wind developments, like industrial level wind developments, done in a way that is not effective in bringing along the community. And so I think that's something that we really need to work on and find a way to do it. Truthfully, I think it's a big challenge, and it's something I'm still puzzling over too.
We have a few more minutes. Are any other questions, Andy?
I have a comment or two and then another question, Kate. First one is, you mentioned this Zoom meeting on February 24th. Could you send us all an invite to that?
Yeah,
Steve, I can do I can do that too. The facility. So Kate doesn't have to do one more detail.
Oh, okay, all right. And then
I did check the agenda this morning to see if I could provide you with the agenda and the link, but it's not available yet. So it's typically available like a week ahead of time. So I'll be looking out for it too. And so Kathy or I will send it to you.
Yeah, and then I wanted to make a comment. You mentioned your third ward house with maybe R5 in the attic. When we moved to Menominee back in mid 2018, within 9 months, we did a thorough energy audit of our condominium, and we ended up really doing the energy efficiency things, new windows was one of them, but then when we went to, we wanted to look at insulation. And we also looked at, we pressurized the house to see where all the air leakage infiltration was. And we had work done there and we had the insulation. And we got a very significant rebate on that. And I do not recall what that rebate is, but that needs to be known more by the public. And I don't even know if it's still going on. Maybe you do. But,
Yeah, actually, I now have an R value of 50 in my attic. I did the work. Still have a lot of energy efficiency work to do, but there were rebates available from Focus on Energy and
that's
Excel.
what, yeah, that was it.
And I believe there's also a tax credit that I haven't received yet, but will this year for that work. So the rebates are not insignificant. And I actually worked through the brand new Green Homeowners United program to help me fund the project through a mortgage refinancing program. So I'm now using a third less energy in my home this winter compared to last winter, and very happy with the results. And so would be glad to talk to you more about any of you more about that.
Sure. And then you had another slide that was, you mentioned equity and inclusiveness, and you were going down those kind of quickly. I was wondering, that kind of caught my attention. Could you comment on that just in a little more depth?
Yeah, I mean, I think, so to use an example of a good idea to move forward with the clean energy movement in an equitable way, I think I would use the energy efficiency idea that I mentioned earlier, that helps people save money while also contributing to a solution to climate change to increase that efficiency and not burn as much fossil fuels. I think an idea that is inequitable would be, perhaps requiring solar on every new building and every existing building in the city. I think that that's certainly a big ask that I think that we probably wouldn't consider at this time. But you can see how to put solar on every single residential house would be a great thing in terms of reducing our fossil fuel usage, but it really would increase housing prices in a time when a lot of people in our community can't afford a safe and affordable house even now. And so that would be sort of an example of how our good intentioned actions that are a solution to climate change would actually end up hurting a population of people. Did you have any other specific questions to that, though?
No.
Okay, I know Sandy, this will be the last question, guys, because we're running a little bit over. And Sandra, I know that you had a question for Kate.
Well, I wanted to just make a couple comments.
Okay.
First of all, I sit on the executive board for the Dunn County Democrats. We have a meeting tonight, so I am going to take forward about the facilities committee, contacting those individuals, and then also working on writing letters of support for the county board. And also too, I'm on the resolution committee, and we're writing up some resolutions for the 3rd congressional district to submit in March. So I can help, move some of that forward. And we did have like climate change on there as one of them, and help some of this underneath, your presentation. I also would like to ask you, Kate, too, if I could submit your name tonight as to present before our Dunn County Democrats. We have we meet the 4th Wednesday of the month, and we have a presentation. We always ask, 1 or 2 individuals to present on some topic. And I think this would be an excellent presentation to take to them. And because we need to get our members all involved in helping, and from a political perspective, writing our congressmen and representatives on, to emphasize how important this is to residents in the state of Wisconsin, and how can we help move this forward, not only on a state level, but then also underneath Biden's plan on a federal level.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be more than happy to speak to the Dunn County Democrats. Just you have my email address, so just follow up with me about the
Yes.
details. I'm pleased to hear that it might come up tonight as well, and I could be available for that meeting as well. So if you
Tonight,
want-
I wouldn't need you tonight, but I was thinking maybe we're looking for a speaker for the fourth Wednesday, the 27th.
okay, yeah, great. Email me.
You know, this
Okay,
brings up, you know, Cheryl, sorry, I'll be quick,
Yeah, go ahead.
Cheryl. This brings up another point. Do we have any connections with the Republican Party, Dunn County Republican Party? Because it would be neat to be able, you know, for
Yes.
Kate to do that. And does anybody have a connection with that group? And if you don't, off the top of your head, could we look for one who might be amenable? Because you know, Sandra, that is a great idea to get that into the you know, into that party meetings.
Well, and both parties should be working on this.
Mhm.
You know, exactly.
Well, and I will say that when it comes to Republican voters and even more conservative leaning local elected officials, this is not a hard conversation to have about clean energy and the benefits of clean energy. I have noticed that, you know, the politicization of climate change, and when we talk to really like hardcore Republicans, a lot of times people shut down. But I think especially on the local level, you know, talking to folks from the Republican Party, that could be a very successful effort.
I think we learned in this group, I just want to say, I think we learned in this group too, sometimes using that term, climate change, because I remember our farmer, Steyer, he
Yeah.
had a real problem with that. But if we
Yeah.
couched it as, you know, improvements for clean energy, then it was more acceptable.
Mhm.
You know, I just kind of a wild idea here. I know we're going over, but so Sandy, your suggestion of having Kate speak to the Democratic Party and then Kathy's, well, we should also talk to the Republicans. You know, and then we're talking about unity and talking together. Would it be kind of a crazy idea to have Kate talk to both parties in a joint meeting? Food for thought.
In the old days, we had Vetter, I think it was Lenore Vetter, who was doing community conversations, and we would put those usually the second Saturday in the library when we were meeting face to face before COVID. That discussion about continuing those conversations has come, community conversations and how impacts to everyday American lives and how we can improve on that. And especially reaching out to the rural community, we need to engage them in this conversation. So that is at least it's in our mix here for the Democratic planning that we're doing for goals for this forthcoming year, is to bring those conversations back and how can we reach it back out. The other piece of that puzzle though is when we rely on Zoom, we do cut out the accessibility to some individuals to be able to participate. So how can we involve-
Maybe in
Yeah,
the coming months, we could do something.
Mhm.
Have it live.
Yeah, instead of just, you know, we need to bring it forth on a topic or subject level and not so much saying on a political party level.
Right.
So that's what we're moving towards, is how can we do that and get more people engaged in those dialogues?
Right.
Mhm.
And then you have rural residents who have horrible internet and they can't even
Mhm.
join a Zoom call even if they
Exactly.
wanted to. So then all of a
Yeah.
sudden you have an intent to want to try to connect with them, but your tools don't work.
Mhm.
And I do think we do have a significant issue in rural Dunn County politically.
Well, broadband is also on one of our resolution topics too.
Yeah.
So in the interest of time,
Yeah.
I know that we're way over.
Yeah.
I just wanna
Way
get
over.
back. I guess I want to, I just want to like recenter on my ask for you as I leave you with a final parting thought, to consider a letter of support to the county board from HEAT. to show support from, you know, one of the most important sustainability committees that the county has now.
Yeah.
So,
To the
so
Okay.
Dunn County
I'll ask you to
Board.
consider that and feel free to, you know, mull it over a little bit and let me know later. That's
Yeah,
totally fine.
that would be to the Dunn County Board, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it makes a lot of sense personally.
All right.
Support you, but anyway.
All right.
Okay, great. Thank you so,
Thank you, Kate.
thank you, Kate. We
Great to see you.
appreciate it.
All
Nice
right.
seeing you again.
Nice
Okay, bye.
job.